This is the most bizarre betrayal case in history. Edward II. When Edward became King of England in 1307, the country was still recovering from war. Edward II was tall and slender, with pale skin, soft features, and a distant gaze that rarely met anyone's eyes. He moved slowly, spoke gently, and carried himself more like a poet than a king. It was a royal wedding, but not a love story. Isabella was just 12 years old, a political bride sent by her father, the King of France, to secure an alliance. Your Majesty, let me introduce you to your wife, Isabella of France. Wait, what's that smell? I think it's your leg, sire. No, it's Isabella of France. Excuse me? You're fired. Hi, Bea. How's it going? Hi! Edward was 23, and his heart belonged to Pierre Gaveston, a tall, elegant knight with a sharp tongue and expensive taste. Gaveston had helped Edward's close companion since their teenage years. Then they became lovers. The Queen was sidelined from the very start. Edward showered him with lands, power, and title. Most notably, Earl of Cornwall. That crossed the line. The English barons saw Gaveston as arrogant, vulgar, and undeserving. By 1312, they had enough. A group of nobles captured Gaveston, dragged him to a field near Warwick, and executed him without trial. Edward was devastated, but instead of making peace with the barons, he found a new favorite, Hugh Despenser the Younger. Unlike Gaveston, Despenser wasn't flashy, he was ruthless. He expanded his power by seizing lands, crushing rivals, and blackmailing nobles. This sparked the Civil War. In 1321, the barons rebelled. Edward and Despenser won, but at a cost. Nearly every noble in the realm now hated the king. Meanwhile, Queen Isabella watched from the sidelines. She had been married to Edward for years, bore his children, and suffered public humiliation for his obsessions. When Edward sent her to France in 1325 to negotiate with her brother, King Charles IV, she saw her chance. In Paris, she refused to return. Worse, she took a lover, Roger Mortimer, one of Edward's exiled enemies. The two raised an army, sailed back to England in 1326, and launched a coup. They didn't need to fight. Most nobles joined Isabella. Towns opened their gates. Edward fled with Despensers to Wales. But they were captured within weeks. Despenser was executed immediately in front of a cheering crowd. Edward was forced to abdicate the throne to his 14-year-old son, now Edward IV. Then he was moved from castle to castle, Kenilworth, then Berkeley. They say in Berkeley Castle, they tried to starve him first. Weeks passed, he grew thin, quiet, ghost-like. Still, he didn't die. Then one night in September 1327, two men entered his cell with no swords, no daggers, only a horn and something glowing red inside. What happened next was designed to leave no mark. According to the story passed down through generations, they held him down and drove the heat into his body from within, so no wound would betray what has been done. By morning, the king was dead, and thus ended the life of a man betrayed by his own wife. We're starting this video off with the epic betrayal story of the most powerful queen in the ancient world. This is Cleopatra. It's 51 BCE. She's 21 years old. Stunning, brilliant, and already running Egypt like it's her personal startup. She ruled by eyeliner and a death glare. But there was one problem. She wasn't ruling alone. According to tradition, Cleopatra had to share the crown with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, just 10 years old. Hey, why is your face all on the coins? I thought we agreed half and half. We did, but my half is the front and the back. Okay. Cleopatra ruled the crown belonged to her alone. That didn't set well with Ptolemy's court. They turned on her. She was exiled from Alexandria, stripped of power, cast into the desert. But Cleopatra didn't give up. She slipped out of Egypt, crossed the desert, and waited for a chance. That chance came wrapped in war. Julius Caesar had arrived in Egypt, chasing his enemy from Rome. He wasn't there to pick sides, until Cleopatra made him. Legend says she smuggled herself into his palace, hidden inside a rug. When it unrolled, there she was. Did my carpet just give birth? Relax, I traveled deluxe. Do you always enter rooms like a burrito? Only when I'm unwrapping empires. I think I'm in love. Caesar was impressed. By the next day, he backed her claim to the throne. Together, they fought Ptolemy's forces in the streets of Alexandria. By the end of the war, her brother was dead, drowned in the Nile trying to escape. After Caesar helped her reclaim power, Cleopatra installed her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, as co-ruler. Barely 12. Can my face be printed on coin? Nope. A year later, Cleopatra gave birth to a son. She named him Caesarion, Little Caesar. In Egypt, she began presenting him as heir not just to Nile, but to Rome. It was bold, it was political, and it was dangerous. Soon after, Cleopatra crowned Caesarion as her new co-ruler. When Ptolemy IX died of unknown causes, she had replaced her brother with her son. When Caesar was murdered in 44 BCE, Cleopatra lost more than an ally. She had lost her shield. In Egypt, she wore the crown, but her power depended on Rome. And Rome no longer saw her as an ally. Without Caesar, she was just a foreign queen with too much influence, so she turned on Mark Antony. Are you in love? I'm in love. Are you in love? I'm in love too. Agree. Together, they built an alliance through politics and love. She gave him children. He gave her armies. For a moment, it worked. Back in Rome, Octavian, Caesar's heir, declared war. He painted Cleopatra as the enemy, and Antony as a traitor under her spell. In 31 BCE, their forces were crushed at Actium. Antony returned to Egypt in defeat. Cleopatra saw what was coming. As Octavian marched toward Alexandria, Antony killed himself. Cleopatra's last hope was her son, Caesarion, Caesar's only child. But he was captured and executed. Octavian wanted Cleopatra alive, paraded through Rome in chains. She refused. Instead, Cleopatra dressed in royal silk, placed a crown on her head, and entered her tomb as a queen. They say she left the asp strike with calm eyes, choosing death on her own terms rather than alive as a trophy. She betrayed her blood to keep the throne, and in the end, betrayed by the empire she dared to love. Julius Caesar. This is Julius Caesar, a general, a politician, and the most powerful man in Rome. He spoke with calm authority, thought sharply, and moved like he'd already won. To his enemy, he was a threat. To his allies, a god. And this is Marcus Junius Brutus, the man Caesar trusted most. Brutus's brother was a politician and soldier who rebelled against Rome's ruler and was executed by Caesar. But Brutus's mother, Servilia, was Caesar's longtime lover, and may have been the reason Caesar treated Brutus with such trust. Caesar forgave Brutus after the Civil War, gave him power, raised and trusted him like a son, gave him a seat beside him. Caesar once read a list of conspirators and saw Brutus's name. He stopped, shook his head, and said, it must be a mistake, because in his mind, Brutus was family. By 44 BCE, the Roman Republic was fading. Everyone knew real power belonged to one man, Julius. Statues went up, his name drowned out the voice of the Senate. People treated him like a king, even if he never wore a crown. And that scared Brutus. Brutus admired Caesar. He owed him. But the more power Caesar gained, the more Brutus began to worry. Brutus, caught between loyalty and duty, started to listen. If Caesar ruled alone, the Republic would die. And if no one stopped him, no one ever could. So Brutus made a choice. He would betray the man who trusted him most, for the city he loved more. March 15th, the Idols of March. That morning, the Senate was set to meet the Theater of Pompeii, and the plan, at least for Caesar, was simple. Finalize new laws, expand his powers, and possibly prepare groundwork for becoming king. As he walked in, the senators greeted him like old friends, smiling. One of them leaned over and whispered, "Big day, huh, Merc?" "Yeah, hoping it doesn't kill me." "I will." Oops. Julius Caesar had ignored every warning. He believed no Roman, especially not Brutus, would dare betray him. But over 60 senators had planned this moment. Brutus wasn't the leader, but his name gave the plot moral weight. If Brutus did it, it would look like a sacrifice for Rome, not an act of revenge. As Caesar sat down, a senator handed him a fake petition. Then came the first stab, from Caesar to the neck. Caesar tried to resist, but blades came from all sides. Cassius, Decimus, more. Then he saw Brutus. Everything stopped. The man he had trusted. The man he had spared. The man he treated like a son. Was holding a knife. "Et tu, Brute? You too?" He didn't fight after that. Caesar fell at the base of the Pompey statue, surrounded by men who once praised him, led by the one he trusted most. Thus ended the great conqueror of his age, not by the sword of an enemy, but by the hand of a friend. If you've ever felt betrayed even just once, drop a comment below. And if you're into epic downfalls, don't miss our next video.